The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One. The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Welcome back. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Janna.
And I'm Jyotsna Kumar. And on World DNA today, we talk about a new trade deal that is struck between the United States and the European Union, ending months of tension. Both the leaders say the deal boosts stability and open markets on both the sides. What does this trade deal look like? And we'll discuss all that on the show today.
Also on World DNA, the UN has said that it will ramp up aid in Gaza after Israel announced that it would establish secure land routes for humanitarian convoys. And this as the WHO warns malnutrition there has reached alarming levels due to the blocked aid. We'll bring you all the details from that front as well. Let's start with the headlines. This is World DNA.
We've reached a deal. It's a good deal for everybody, I believe. And I think you were saying this is probably the biggest deal ever reached in any capacity, trade or beyond trade. I'm going to let you say, but I think it's the biggest deal ever made. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
The United States and European Union clinch a trade deal after U.S. President Donald Trump's meeting with European Commission leader Ursula von der Leyen. Agreement includes a 15% baseline tariff for most EU exports to U.S.
Planes from Jordan and UAE dropped 25 tons of food aid and humanitarian supplies into Gaza. Palestinian media says the airdropped amount is insignificant as Gaza needs much more.
There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dismisses claims that Israel is starving civilians in Gaza. He says Israel enabled aid throughout the war, otherwise there would be no Gazans.
At least 3 people killed and several others injured after a regional passenger train derailed in a wooded area in southwestern Germany. Cambodia and Thailand scheduled to begin ceasefire talks in Malaysia. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says State Department officials are present there to assist peace efforts.
North Korea rejects South Korea's peace overtures. A sister of leader Kim Jong-un says Pyongyang has no interest in pursuing dialogue with Seoul after South Korea's new president vowed to improve ties.
The abbot of China's famous Shaolin Temple is under investigation for criminal offences including embezzling project funds and temple assets.
Oil prices saw a slight rise following a new trade deal between the U.S. and the EU. The move, coupled with a potential pause in tariffs with China, eased concerns about economic slowdowns and boosted fuel demand.
The Manchester Test between India and England ends in a draw, but not without drama. Tensions rise after Indian batters refuse Ben Stokes' offer to shake hands, choosing instead to complete their centuries before walking off.
Now, the U.S. and the European Union have reached a trade deal framework ending a months-long standoff between two of the world's biggest economic partners.
After an hour-long negotiation between U.S. President Donald Trump and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, which has been months in the making, the pair agreed on a 15% U.S. tariff on all EU goods, half the threatened rate. And it is the same level secured by Japan earlier this month, with bilateral tariff exemptions on some products. Addressing the media alongside von der Leyen, Trump called the deal great.
I think it's great that we made a deal today instead of playing games and maybe not making a deal at all. I think it's, I'm going to let you say, but I think it's the biggest deal ever made. Thank you very much. Congrats.
Ursula von der Leyen, describing Trump as a tough negotiator, said that the 15% tariff applied across the board, later telling reporters that it was the best they could get.
15% is not to be underestimated, but it is the best we could get. It's overall across the board. Important was for us, it includes not only the cars, so go down with the tariffs for cars to 15%, but also all goods and semiconductor and pharma.
The EU also committed to buy $750 billion of liquefied natural gas, oil and nuclear fuels from the United States, split equally over 3 years to replace Russian energy sources. And it would pour $600 billion more in additional investments in the United States. Trump said EU countries, which recently pledged to ramp up their defense spending within NATO, would be spending hundreds and billions of dollars worth of military equipment.
Von der Leyen said there would be no tariffs from either side on aircraft and aircraft parts, certain chemicals, certain generic drugs, semiconductor equipment, some agricultural products, natural resources, and critical raw materials.
European Parliament President Roberta Metsola welcomed the deal through a post on social media, calling it an important step that strengthens transatlantic partnership. And this while adding that they are yet to analyze the agreement to ensure it is in the best interest of European businesses and consumers.
Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said the deal was a positive step. Listen to this.
I consider it positive that there is an agreement, but if I don't see the details, I'm not able to judge it properly.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz welcomed the deal, saying it averted a trade conflict that would have hit Germany's export-driven economy and its large auto sector hard. Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof called the deal vital, while Irish Prime Minister said that it brings clarity and stability to the trading relationship between the EU and the US.
Well, now the question is, what happens next? Now, the deal needs to be approved by EU member states, whose ambassadors will meet first thing on Monday for a debrief from the European Commission. There are still technical talks to come, as the agreement needs to be fully fleshed out.
The US president has said that Israel would have to make a decision on the next steps in Gaza, adding that he did not know what would happen after the collapse of the ceasefire and hostage release negotiations with Hamas.
Trump underscored the importance of securing the release of the hostages held by Hamas, saying they had suddenly hardened up on the issue.
When you get it down to a certain number, you're not going to be able to make a deal with Hamas, because once they give them up, then they feel that that's going to be the end of them. And what I said is exactly true. You know, they had a routine discussion the other day, and all of a sudden they hardened up. They don't want to give them back. And so Israel's going to have to make a decision.
Trump also weighed in on the humanitarian crisis and reports of starvation-related deaths in Gaza. Asked about the images that have been coming out of Gaza of the starving children, Trump said he thought that was terrible.
You know, when I see the children, and when I see, especially over the last couple of weeks, and people are stealing the food, they're stealing the money for the food, they're stealing weapons, they're stealing everything. It's a mess. That whole place is a mess.
But amid growing concerns, Israel has denied widespread reports of starvation in Gaza and blamed Hamas for stealing aid. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there is no starvation in Gaza, as Israel allowed in aid throughout the war.
Israel is presented as though we are applying a campaign of starvation in Gaza. What a bold-faced lie. There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza. We enable humanitarian aid throughout the duration of the war to enter Gaza. Otherwise, there would be no Gazans.
Israel on Sunday announced a halt in military operations for 10 hours a day in parts of Gaza and new aid corridors. Jordan and UAE airdropped supplies into the enclave. 2 Jordanian and 1 Emirati plane dropped 25 tons of humanitarian aid. Palestinians gathered in hopes of receiving supplies. Many people walked through the area waiting for assistance, but frustration grew as some didn't get anything.
2 planes carrying aid went into the air. Look, as you can see, I didn't get anything out of them. I followed the planes where they dropped the aid. They dropped the aid around 3 kilometers from where people were gathered, and we didn't get aid. This is a very difficult situation.
The UN's World Food Program said it had enough food in or on its way to the region to feed the 2.1 million people in the Gaza Strip for almost 3 months. The food agency said around 80 trucks entered Gaza on Sunday, with the agency aiming to bring in about 80 to 100 food trucks daily.
But Palestinian media claim that Gaza needs at least anywhere between 500 to 1,000 aid trucks per day, and the 20 trucks or even 100 aid trucks that are coming in at this point is just a drop in the ocean of what over 2 million Palestinians in Gaza need. It also claimed that Israeli settlers are calling to stop the flour trucks from heading from Jordan to Gaza. And Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has threatened to renew attacks on Iran and assassinate Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
He was speaking at a Ramon Air Force Base in southern Israel. Katz issued what he called a clear message to Khamenei, who he referred to as the dictator. He said that if threatened, Israel's long arm will reach Tehran again, adding that the country's security forces will reach Khamenei personally.
Katz also encouraged and thanked the Israeli troops stationed at Ramon Air Base for their contribution during Operation Rising Lion. Katz highlighted how Israeli pilots had opened the skies above Tehran.
The Israeli defense minister's statement comes as U.S. President Donald Trump expressed surprise at Iran's continued insistence on uranium enrichment, despite last month's American airstrikes on its nuclear facilities, vowing to block any attempt by Iran to maintain the program.
Speaking on the sidelines of his meeting with the president of the European Commission, Trump said that Iran was beaten up very badly and it can't obtain nukes under his watch.
I think Iran's been very nasty. I did. I talked to him about a lot of things. I talked to him about Iran. I think Iran's been very nasty with their words, with their mouth. I think they've been very nasty. They got the hell knocked out of them, and I don't think they know it. You know, I actually don't think they know it. They really do. The whole thing's a con job. We have a lot of con jobs going on. But Iran was beaten up very badly, for good reason. We cannot have them have a nuclear weapon.
During the peak of the recent Israel-Iran conflict, Trump, too, had warned Khamenei, saying that he knew exactly where the supreme leader was hiding, but did not want to have him killed at the moment.
The 12-day conflict between Israel and Iran erupted on the 13th of June when Israel launched airstrikes on Iranian military and nuclear sites. Tehran launched retaliatory missile and drone strikes, while the US bombed 3 Iranian nuclear sites. The conflict came to a halt under a US-sponsored ceasefire that took effect on the 24th of June.
The U.S. President Donald Trump says that the United States will work with Thailand and Cambodia to achieve a ceasefire.
And this as the two countries are now set to hold peace talks in Malaysia today. Speaking to reporters in Scotland, Trump said that he believed the two sides wanted to settle their differences after he told the leaders of both countries that he would not conclude trade deals with them unless they ended their fighting.
And I spoke to both of the prime ministers, and I think by the time I got off, I think they want to settle now. I know they're meeting today or tomorrow, and we're going to work with them. Marco Rubio's working with them also, his people, and him. I think we're going to get that. That would be a great thing, but that would have turned out to be a bad one.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that U.S. officials are in Malaysia to assist in peace efforts between the two sides. Thailand announced on Sunday that acting Prime Minister Pumthang Awechayachai and Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Manet will meet for talks mediated by Malaysian leader Anwar Ibrahim, who chairs the ASEAN regional bloc, of which Thailand and Cambodia are members. Anwar said the expected talks would focus on an immediate ceasefire between the two fighting neighbors.
The clashes began on the 24th of July in a disputed border region marked by thick jungles and rice farms. By the 26th of July, this conflict had spread nearly 250 kilometers to the coastal Gulf of Thailand. The dispute, long simmering over ancient temple sites, escalated in May after a Cambodian soldier was killed.
A leaked phone call between Thailand's former Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra and Cambodia's ex-leader Hun Sen further stoked tensions, triggering a political storm in Bangkok.
And just yesterday, the two sides exchanged heavy artillery fire near the border for the 4th consecutive day, with both sides blaming each other for starting the fire first.
At least 34 people have been killed and more than 200,000 displaced due to the conflict. Despite the fighting, many refuse to abandon their homes and animals, stubbornly risking their lives.
I'm not afraid. They told me to evacuate to the city, but I didn't. I have cows, buffaloes, chickens, and my home. How could I leave? I'm a leader of this village. I have to take care of the people.
And Donald Trump is serving his last term as President of the United States.
Now, in speculation, of course, on who will succeed him is on the rise in Republican circles. So who will replace Trump? Will it be U.S. Secretary of State and Trump's close confidant, Marco Rubio, or Trump's number 2 Vice President, J.D. Vance?
Well, in an interview with Lara Trump, Marco Rubio fell shy of declaring any 2028 ambitions. Rubio may have deflected the question on his own presidential bid, but he openly backed Vice President J.D. Vance as a potential presidential nominee. Speaking to Fox News host Lara Trump, Rubio said J.D. Vance would be a great presidential nominee, adding that he is focused on his current role and wants to serve as long as the president allows through to the end of this term in 2028.
And obviously, who built this country.
You are talked about quite frequently as a possible contender in 2028. Do you have your sights set outside of the State Department?
Well, I think J.D. Vance would be a great nominee, and if I think if he decides he wants to do that, and so I think he's doing a great job as vice president. He's a close friend, and I hope he intends to.
Despite his refusal, Rubio's presidential ambitions are not hidden from anyone. In 2016, he led a full-fledged presidential run in Republican primaries, but failed to secure a presidential nomination.
Now, the remarks come amid growing speculation that J.D. Vance could be the Republican frontrunner in 2028. Vice President Vance's political stock is on the rise. According to cryptocurrency-based prediction agency Polymarket, the over 40-year-old vice president currently holds a 28% chance to win the White House, far ahead of other potential candidates, with Marco Rubio himself polling at just 5%.
Now, Trump has consolidated his support within the Republican Party in last decade. GOP faces a big challenge ahead, and that is to come up with a leader that can keep the party intact and help it secure the second consecutive presidential term after George W. Bush. Now, many countries in Europe are scorching under devastating wildfires that have been now burning in for days.
From Turkey to Albania and Greece to France, firefighters are working round the clock to douse the flames and contain the damage. Starting with Turkey, wildfires intensified overnight and are now threatening its fourth largest city, Bursa, leading to 13 deaths and forcing 1,765 evacuations. Over 1,100 firefighters are tirelessly battling the flames, which have also led to the closure of the highway linking Bursa to the capital, Ankara. Lessening winds since morning have offered some respite to the firefighters.
Now, there are visuals of large swathes of forest burned to ashes where farms and pine trees once stood. In Greece's neighboring Mediterranean island, Cyprus, 2 people have been killed. The fires, described as the worst on the island in more than half a century, have devastated large tracts of southern Cyprus, injuring dozens of people and displacing hundreds. An estimated 250 firefighters are battling to contain the blazes, ranging on multiple fronts.
Greece is battling 5 major wildfires across the country. Officials are continuously evacuating residents in the most hard-hit regions. Just 25 kilometers north of the capital city, Athens, visuals show local firefighters helping residents battle the flames.
The ongoing emergency comes amid a severe heat wave and high winds and scorching temperatures fanning the flames. Greece has formally requested assistance from the EU Civil Protection Mechanism for 6 additional firefighting aircraft.
And 10 wildfires are raging in Albania's southwestern Riviera coast. Thousands of hectares of forests and green areas have been charred, with some homes destroyed. Over 1,000 firefighters and emergency personnel have been deployed to battle the flames.
The BC in Kosovo have seen strong winds, which is being fueled by widespread wildfires, with Authorities managing to extinguish 17 blazes while 12 others remain active. The devastating wildfires have swept through the villages in southern Kosovo, causing significant damage to property and livestock.
In southern France, firefighters are currently tackling a wildfire in the Aude department, which has spread across more than 600 hectares and is forcing the evacuation of 2 campsites and some local homes. While the blaze is mostly under control, some regions continue to smolder.
We can say that the fire is under control, but there are still some areas smouldering that the unit will have the job of gradually putting out. All the little red blazes you see in the night, their job will be to put them out so that tomorrow morning, when the wind picks up to 90 km/h, things will be okay again.
Now, as unprecedented heat scorches Europe and West Asia, at least 6 nations are engulfed in flames. 4 European countries have turned to the EU for coordinated firefighting support.
Parliament isn't usually where you expect to see baby bottles and bedtime routines, but the Australian Senate witnessed a rare and heartfelt moment.
Queensland Labour Senator Corinne Mulholland made her very first speech while holding her infant son named Augie.
Elected in the May federal election, Senator Mulholland stepped into the chamber not only as a new senator but also as a mother, balancing the demands of public service and parenthood. Her son sat quietly with her as she addressed the parliament. Senator Mulholland opened her remarks by acknowledging that her young son's bedtime was fast approaching, drawing smiles across the room.
I stand here tonight holding my young son, as you can see, with his bedtime fast approaching. I am praying that Augie and I make it through this speech unscathed, so Godspeed. Augie is here not as a symbol, but as a powerful reminder of why I am here. I am a wife and a mum from the outer suburbs of Queensland.
The senator spoke about the experiences of parents across the country juggling work responsibilities and the constant demands of raising a child. She said she hopes to bring some mum energy into the Senate.
Mums are masters in turning chaos into order and making the impossible possible. And I hope to bring just a bit of that mum energy to everything I do in this place.
As the speech came to a close, the infant was gently handed over to other members before she finished, leaving a memorable and touching impression on everyone present.
Well, it's now time for a very short break. On the other side of World DNA, we have lots lined up. We start with the abbot of the iconic Shaolin Temple, Shi Yongxin, often called China's CEO monk, is now under investigation for serious criminal offenses. We'll get you all the latest on the other side.
Also on the other side of the break, the United States and European Union reached a framework trade deal, avoiding what could have been a costly escalation. We'll bring you more details on that as well. Let's start with this short break and come right back. This is World DNA, which continues on the other side.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street
to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets. WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
All right, welcome back. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna. I'm Shivan. Let's start with the headlines we're tracking for you at this hour.
We've reached a deal. It's a good deal for everybody, I believe. And it's, I think you were saying this is probably the biggest deal ever reached in any capacity, trade or beyond trade. I'm going to let you say that. It's the biggest deal ever.
The United States and the European Union clinch a trade deal after U.S. President Donald Trump's meeting with European Commission leader Ursula von der Leyen. Agreement includes a 15% baseline tariff for most EU exports to U.S.
Planes from Jordan and UAE dropped 25 tons of food aid and humanitarian supplies into Gaza. Palestinian media says the airdropped amount is insignificant as Gaza needs much more.
There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dismisses claims that Israel is starving civilians in Gaza. He says Israel enabled aid throughout the war, otherwise there would be no Gazans.
At least 3 people killed and several others injured after a regional passenger train derailed in a wooded area in southwestern Germany.
Cambodia and Thailand scheduled to begin ceasefire talks in Malaysia. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says State Department officials are present there to assist peace efforts.
North Korea rejects South Korea's peace overtures. Sister of leader Kim Jong-un says Pyongyang has no interest in pursuing dialogue with Seoul after South Korea's new president had vowed to improve ties.
The abbot of China's famous Shaolin Temple is under investigation for criminal offenses including embezzling project funds and temple assets.
The Manchester test between India and England ends in a draw, but not without drama. Tensions rise after Indian batters refuse Ben Stokes' offer to shake hands, choosing instead to complete their centuries before walking off.
Now, in India, lawmakers are set to debate the Pahalgam terror attack and India's response to the attack under Operation Sindoor.
The ruling alliance and the opposition, they are prepared for a marathon face-off with the discussion set to begin in the Lok Sabha later today. The government has said that 16 hours have been allocated for the debate in the Lok Sabha, while the Rajya Sabha will discuss it on Tuesday for another 16 hours. The opposition has been demanding a discussion on Operation Sindoor.
Sources say Home Minister Amit Shah, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will lead the government's charge. Prime Minister Narendra Modi may also weigh in.
Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju has said that both sides have agreed to a detailed discussion. Lawmakers are bracing for an intense 16-hour debate in each house.
The core of the discussion is alleged intelligence gaps in the April 22nd Pahalgam terror attack, which claimed 26 civilian lives. The opposition has also pointed out that the terrorists directly responsible have still not been brought to justice.
The opposition is also likely to question the government's claim on Operation Sindoor's complete success. It may raise the issue of political decisions hampering military operations during Operation Sindoor and any tactical mistakes during the response.
The Congress on Sunday recapitulated the events forming the backdrop to the debate. Prominent among them, U.S. President Donald Trump claiming 26 times since May 10th that he stopped Operation Sindoor by threatening to cut off trade with India.
Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi has kept up a steady attack alleging failures in India's foreign policy and claiming that Operation Sindoor did not get the international support that it needed.
Ahead of the parliamentary discussion on Operation Sindoor, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, speaking at the event honoring Chola King Rajendra Chola, reiterated that Operation Sindoor demonstrated to the world how India responds to attacks on its sovereignty. He said the cross-border military offensive has instilled a new self-confidence across the country.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने दिखा दिया है कि भारत के दुश्मनों के लिए, आतंकवादियों के लिए अब कोई ठिकाना सुरक्षित नहीं है.
The Prime Minister praised Operation Sindoor for neutralizing terror bases in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Pakistan, calling it a testament to India's self-reliance in defense. And in a move that could impact millions of patients using acidity medication, India's top drug regulator body has issued fresh instructions to keep a closer watch on ranitidine.
Now, this is a widely used drug for acid reflux and ulcers. The Central Drug Standard Control Organization has asked all state and union territory drug regulators to ensure that the manufacturer monitor NDMA levels in both the active ingredient and finished product of ranitidine. NDMA, a chemical classified as probable human carcinogen, has raised safety concerns in several countries, including the United States.
The directive came after a recent meeting of the Drugs Technical Advisory Board, where members reviewed findings from an expert panel that had been studying ranitidine since last December. Following this, the board recommended forming a larger committee to explore factors like how storage conditions may affect NDMA formation.
Now, as a precautionary step, the companies have also been advised to reduce the shelf life of ranitidine. In parallel, the Indian Council of Medical Research has been asked to carry out a study on the long-term safety of the drug. Manufacturers have now been directed to implement risk-based strategies like stricter testing, updated storage guidelines, and tighter control over distribution. Now, thousands of men allegedly shared intimate photos and videos of their girlfriends without consent online.
This is according to Chinese media reports. The incident has sparked widespread outrage across China against secret filming and calls to better protect women. Now, the case comes under spotlight after a Chinese university expelled a woman student for this month for damaging national dignity over videos posted by a Ukrainian esports player on Telegram suggesting they had been intimate.
Reports of Chinese state-owned media revealed a woman had discovered that the photos of her taken unknowingly had been shared in a Telegram forum with over 100,000 users, mostly Chinese men. Members of the forum also shared photos of their girlfriends, ex-girlfriends, and wives. And this is according to a commentary in a Guangming Daily that an outlet backed by China's Communist Party. Revelations of the group have sparked widespread outcry online. Chinese women have taken to social media to detail their own experiences being filmed and photographed by men in public.
The incident has drawn comparisons to a case in South Korea dubbed Enet's Room, in which a man blackmailed dozens of women into taking sexually explicit videos and sold them on Telegram. Chinese authorities have yet to publicly announce any action against the Telegram group. Now, this has been a revelation that has shaken China's Buddhist community and sparked nationwide outrage. The abbot of the iconic Shaolin temple, Shi Yongxin, often called China's CEO monk, is now under investigation.
Now, the investigation is for serious criminal offenses. According to a statement released by the temple itself, she is suspected of embezzling project funds, misusing temple assets, and violating core Buddhist principles. Multiple government departments have launched a joint probe into the accusations. The temple has also accused him of maintaining long-term improper relationships with multiple women and fathering illegitimate children.
Shi, who became abbot in 1999, is a controversial figure. He holds an MBA and turned the Shaolin Temple into a global brand with cultural centers around the world and investments in film, media and real estate. Earlier attempts to investigate him, including claims of fraud and sexual misconduct in 2015, were later dismissed due to lack of evidence.
Now, in a landmark moment for the Maldives aviation industry, a new passenger terminal at Velana International Airport has been inaugurated by President Mohamed Muizu.
The state-of-the-art facility has been developed by Maldives Airports Company Limited, and now this marks a significant step forward in enhancing the nation's air travel and tourism infrastructure.
Modern and efficiently engineered, the new 78,000 square meter terminal is designed to accommodate up to 7 million passengers annually. And that is a significant upgrade from the previous facility's 1.5 million capacity.
Whole nation. As you know, this is the gateway to our nation, and tourism is the most important part of our economy. So this will give us capacity to really increase our tourism arrivals and also really increase ourselves as a country as an aviation hub. Hopefully that is the vision of us as a company, airport company and an operator. 0.5 million capacity is what we're looking at. So it's a massive increase from where we're at. Obviously that will take a bit of a runway in order to achieve that.
Amid this, the new terminal at the Villana International Airport welcomed its first flight from India, arriving from Cochin. With this, Maldives closes a crucial checkpost in attracting more Indian tourists, who are especially very crucial to its economy.
A lot of airlines. Previously, during the season time, we see the airport is packed full, and the services could get delayed because of the size. So with the new airport, we are able to cater annually 5 million to 7.5 million. So last year we achieved a historic milestone, which is 2 million.
With 38 immigration counters, 40 boarding gates and multiple jet bridges, the terminal promises a smoother, more seamless travel experience for the millions of tourists drawn to the Maldives. Iconic Turquoise shows.
We're inside the new terminal of the Malé International Airport. The terminal was inaugurated by the Maldivian president, coinciding with the 60th Independence Day celebrations of the country. Now, this terminal, which has investments from West Asian countries and, of course, from Maldives as well, hopes to get more tourists from across the world, including from India. In fact, the first flight that will land here is an A380 from India's Cochin to Malé, Maldives. We know that India itself is helping Maldives build the Hanimadu airport in north of this country, in northern part of Maldives, and that of course will help boost tourism and growth in that part of Maldives. But talking about this particular terminal, in fact the World Bank has said that this will help increase the GDP of the country, and there is of course focus that how this terminal can now handle almost 2 or 3 times the passenger who come to Maldives from the previous almost 1.5 to 2 million people. With video journalist Neeraj Patel, Siddhant Sibal for WION in Malé, Maldives.
The United States and the European Union reached a framework trade deal, avoiding what could have been a costly escalation.
Now, under the deal, a 15% U.S. import tariff will apply to most EU goods, including cars, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called it a deal that brings stability and predictability, while President Trump declared it as the biggest deal ever made.
So we have good news. We've reached a deal. It's a good deal for everybody, I believe. And I think you were saying this is probably the biggest deal ever reached in any capacity, trade or beyond trade.
It is.
It's a giant deal with lots of countries. So we're going to do the following. The European Union is going to agree to purchase from the United States $750 billion worth of energy. $750 billion worth of energy. They are going to agree to invest into the United States $600 billion more than they're investing already. So they're investing a large amount of money. You know what that amount of money is. It's very substantial, but they're going to invest an additional $600 billion. They're agreeing to open up their countries to trade at zero tariff.
We have a deal. We have a trade deal between the two largest economies in the world. And it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. It will bring stability. It will bring predictability. That's very important for our businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. It's 15% tariffs across the board, all inclusive. The investments Mr. President just described that going to go to the United States and the purchases over there. Indeed, basically the European market is open. It's 450 million people. So it's a good deal. It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
With tough negotiations. I knew it at the beginning, and it was indeed very tough, but we came to good conclusions for both sides. So again, congratulations and many thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The 15% tariff applies broadly, but some key sectors will see zero tariffs, notably aircraft, certain chemicals, and generic drugs. However, steel and aluminium are excluded from the main deal and will remain under a 50% tariff.
While the EU had originally aimed for a zero-for-zero tariff framework, officials see the 15% baseline as preferable to Trump's earlier threat of a 30% levy. The EU also welcomed investments in US LNG as a means to cut the backdoor supply of Russian energy.
Indeed, we still have too much Russian LNG that is coming through the back door again to our European Union, and some Russian gas and oil still in the European Union, which we do not want anymore. We want to absolutely get rid of Russian fossil fuels. And therefore, it is much welcome to purchase the more affordable and better LNG from the United States. And there, approximately, our estimation is that we can do 250 per year over 3 years.
Investors have been cautiously optimistic about the deal prospects, though eyes are on the tariff deadline of August 1st to assess the real-time impact of a global trade fallout. Analysts call the outcome bearable for Europe, though critics warn the U.S. may pay the price in higher consumer costs and slower growth. Economists estimate a dip in U.S. growth due to rising protectionism and reduced immigration.
The deal closely mirrors the recent US-Japan trade agreement, with the fifth major trade deal announced since Trump's tariff rhetoric. China and India are expected to be the next in line.
Now, a moment to sports. The Manchester Test is under the spotlight, not just for a remarkable rearguard effort from India, but also for the handshake controversy.
Well, England captain Ben Stokes is under scrutiny now after showing visible frustration when India declined his offer of an early draw. The tensions began when Ben Stokes offered to end the match in a draw with 15 overs left on day 5. However, the offer was declined. Ravindra Jadeja and Washington Sundar, unbeaten on 89 and 80 respectively, they stood firm. Skipper Shubman Gill watched from the dugout, backed the decision to play on, and Stokes, who wanted to spare his fatigued bowlers from further workload, grew visibly frustrated as India refused to shake hands. England's fielders, clearly rattled, unleashed a barrage of verbal barbs. Stokes quipped sarcastically to Jadeja, "You want to get a test 100 against Harry Brook?" A sharp dig, considering Brook isn't a regular bowler. Opening batter Ben Duckett joined in, saying, "How long do you need to complete your ton? An hour? Question mark." And of course, all of this, it turns out, they only needed 15 minutes. Both Jadeja and Sundar reached their centuries, with Washington bringing up his maiden test 100 with a double against Brook. And that's where the match ended.
If someone is batting on 90 and the other one is batting on 85, don't they deserve 100? Would they have walked off if someone from England's side would have been batting on 90 or 85? If someone had the opportunity to get his first test 100, wouldn't you allow him to do it? They weather the storm. It's up to them. That is, if they want to play that way, that's up to them. I've got nothing more to say. I think both those guys deserved 100, and fortunately they got it.
Point where it was the draw's inevitable here. I was never going to risk any of my frontline bowlers with the short turnaround that we have and the workload that we've got through this week and throughout the series as well. So yeah, as soon as the 15 overs or last hour was there was always going to be a shake hands. But as I said, the only other person who's actually got any bowling workload into them is Harry Brook.
Well, that's all in this edition of World DNA. But before we go, here's a look at all the climate stories making headlines across the world. We leave you with that. Thanks for watching. Keep watching Beyond World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Diksha Bisla. Let's start with the headlines. At least 7 people reportedly killed and dozens injured after Pakistan Army fires upon Pashtun protesters at the Tira Valley in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. China says it is resolutely opposed to Czech President Peter Pavel's meeting in India with Tibetan spiritual leader Dalai Lama and urges the Czech side to abide by its One China political commitment. North Korea rejects South Korea's peace overtures. Sister of leader Kim Jong-un says Pyongyang has no interest in pursuing dialogue with Seoul after South Korea's new president had vowed to improve ties.
Reached a deal. I think you were saying this is probably the biggest deal ever reached.
The United States and European Union clinch a trade deal after US President Donald Trump's meeting with European Commission leader Ursula von der Leyen. Agreement includes a 15% baseline tariff for most EU exports to US.